Good afternoon. Happy Sunday. Soulful Sunday. We need to check in. We're in crazy times, and I know everybody out there needs to breathe. So let's come into breath awareness. Let's come into grounding and centering ourselves wherever you're at. Hopefully you're in a place that's sacred, where you can close your eyes and breathe into your pelvic floor. Expand your belly up. Chest lifts, and on the exhale, the chest lowers, the belly pulls in and up at the navel point. Feeling as the breath enters through the nose, goes down the throat, deep down into the pelvic floor, expanding. And then on the exhale, the contraction, the pulling in. Inhale, long, slow, deep. Exhale, no rush. There's nowhere to be. Just be here, right now, in this present moment. Inhaling, exhaling. Keeping your eyes closed, focus within. Feel into your body with every inhalation. And every exhalation, tapping into your body's wisdom, feeling all of your senses engaging. Be the observer of your mind, your thoughts, any memories, anything that drops in, just be the observer, witness. Don't respond, don't react, just be. Inhaling. Exhaling. Just keep inhaling and exhaling long, slow, and deep. Feel yourself in this nice big bubble, this space. Create the buffer between you and the rest of the world. Allow yourself to be completely present in this moment. Inhaling. And then exhaling as you make your bubble bigger. Nothing can penetrate you. Stay present with the breath. No matter what's going on in the outside world, you can tune in and tap into the now within you. There will be outside sounds. They'll be there to distract you. It's up to you to stay present. Being accountable, taking responsibility, being accountable. It's up to you to be present in the now. Make this your last one. Inhale long, slow, deep, reaching up, elongating the entire spine, reaching through the fingertips. Hold it at the top. And then exhale, sweep your arms down, brushing your aura, becoming ever more present, centered, rooted into the earth, conscious and aware. Just be here for a moment. Observe your thoughts, any sensations, feelings, emotions. What came up for you? What is going on in your world? Truly. Not what's going on in the world around you that's meant to take you out of that place. But what are you yourself dealing with in this moment, here and now? Can you recognize the difference between the outer world and the inner world? Do you acknowledge when you allow the outer world to take you out of your inner world? Do you give your peace away to be a part of and a piece of society? Do you check your integrity and if it's aligned with your loyalty? Many of us have been indoctrinated into this belief that we must be loyal, we must serve, support, be a part of society in a whole in the way that takes us out of our own self-care and nurturing. Life is always going to be happening around us. But the choices we make in every moment need to come from a place of true awareness. Not reactive, not out of habit, not blindly being led. Each and every one of us has a moral and ethical responsibility to serving our soul, to serve our highest good, the whole purpose we incarnated into this world. To be conscious of the why we do what we do, as opposed to the instant gratification, self-satisfaction mentality that many of us don't even realize we operate from. Addiction is the root of most of our suffering. And the biggest addiction we have is to our belief systems, is to the idea that we know it all, that the mind is in control, that we are the slaves to this mind, not the master of our mind. The way to finding our happiness, our true joy, finding our way back to our health and our wealth, the abundant life that we were given. See, we're truly blessed, but we've gotten sidetracked. We've been hijacked, taken off of our path, our purpose, with distractions, entertainments, telling a vision, channeling and programming with casted spells of actors in Hollywood. Because, we just want to have fun, but at what cost? I was compelled out of bed this morning with this meme that I posted earlier. Solutions come from a place of informed, better choices. You must have informed consent to make better choices. But you also have to be willing to do the research, to know your rights, your responsibilities, your duty. And if you don't, then you're basically living a parroted life. You are told what to do and you just go and do it. I'm not here to judge you. This is a moment where I'm going to share with you some information and you get to check yourself. I'm not here to judge. Each person has a moral responsibility to their heart and soul. Not to me, not to everyone else, but you need to check in with you. Even the birds will tell you. Nature will give you all the answers you need. Nature nurtures. Nature doesn't condemn, doesn't attack, doesn't punish. No, in fact, man does that. Man comes up with these rules, these regulations, these ways to keep you controllable, to keep you submissive. Following the rules is all about being a loyal subject, a loyal servant. The most unhealthy, toxic, codependent relationship we have right now is to the system we are living in. Stop and think about it. Do you really think you are living a free life? You think you have information that gives you the right to choose, but do you ever question the information that you have? From the moment you're born, you're told who you are, how you should act, how you should behave in society, what it takes to go along, to get along, to be inclusive and not exclusive, to be part of the in crowd or the outcast. And how many of us were raised and we never felt we really truly belonged. Going along with science, it's not about science, it's about compliance. It's about really understanding, not understanding. You know what the word understanding is about? Standing under somebody. And in a court of law, when someone asks if you understand, be careful. Because what you're admitting to in that moment is that you are willing to stand under them. When in reality, you need to raise your standards, elevate yourself, and stand over. Be the observer. The mind is meant to observe and to provide what it sees so that the heart can evaluate even more effectively. See, we are meant to feel because we are extra sensitive beings, not doings. Humans have 5 senses, and we are meant to tap into those 5 senses and trust our intuition, not what we're told from the outside external world. Because even sometimes what we see isn't all that is. Hence why we can hear, smell, taste, touch. It's not about one sense. You have to incorporate all 5 senses. You have to be willing to feel into something doesn't feel right, even though it looks okay. Tapping in with your spidey sense is what gives you your superpowers. The world is going to try to catch you off guard. And the more you are in your knowing of who you are, your inner guidance system versus the external indoctrination. Everything we're taught in school is what we're meant to know to serve society. We're not taught to take care of ourselves or to be personally responsible or accountable unless it's serving the agenda to serve others. And how many times do you hear people say, for the greater good, for the greater good? Well, we are the greater good. That includes you and me. So if somebody is to come out to you and say, well, you need to think of others, well, I am the other as well. Don't let them Jedi mind trick you because they're already tricked. And right now we have a lot of humans. Ooh, tricks are for kids, people. Stupid human tricks. Don't just go along to get along. Sometimes going against the grain is going to save your life a whole lot quicker than going along. Lemmings, they all jump off a cliff together. And who here remembers when you were a child? If everybody's jumping off a cliff, are you going to jump off that cliff too? I remember that one well. Of course not. I'm not stupid. Just because I see somebody else leading everyone else off a cliff, I'm not going to go jumping off a cliff. I'm going to do my own due diligence. I'm going to critically reason with the information I have and do my own research. I'm not just going to watch and learn from what I'm told. I've learned through personal experience more than I have through any research I could ever do. So if somebody tries to indoctrinate you into their cult of personalities, because the word cult comes from culture. We've all been cultured into a cult. Check your loyalty. Check your integrity. Does it align with your heart and your soul? How does it feel? Where do you feel it? Do you have tension about it? If you feel tension, discomfort in your body, that's a sign. Listen to it. Trust it. It's there for you to discern. And you're not here to explain yourself to others. Whatever it is you comes into your awareness is for you to lean into and learn from. So as I was compelled out of bed this morning, I was reminded about all the rabbit holes I've been down. A lot of people don't understand what's going on here in Florida. Yeah, we're the one of the freer states, but we got big agra still in control over here. That these big corporations are so corrupt that if you do your own research, you watch and you follow people who are going out into the field, independent. They're not journalists. They're humans that are curious and want to know, why is this happening? Why is our water being polluted? Why is it okay that corporations allow faulty structures to pollute our earth? But if it was you or me, we'd be fined. Critical reasoning, people. Why are we supporting a system that subsidizes big agri, big pharma, big? All the big boxes, all the corruption. Stop and think about it. They lobby. They got more money that they put toward lobbying to side with them and paying people off under the table pays, buying off the people that are supposed to represent you and me, that when you go to speak, you're the one treated as the defiant, when in reality, they work for us. So we have a situation here in Florida. We had a situation last time about the big sinkhole around all that chemical waste. The Okeechobee River has been polluted. We have this phosphogypsum chemical waste. I can go down the list of things that we have issues with and how deep those tentacles go. But I'm going to encourage you, you need to do your own due diligence and research. I'm not here to say, I just want you to, whatever. Because you know what it really boils down to? Facts over feelings. Because a lot of people getting hijacked with the feelings. And they're buying into and taking sides with the wrong side. Because they are emotionally tugged. See, they do research to play off of your emotions. They know how to get into you through your senses. This is why I teach what I teach. To try to get you to waken up to your inner knowing, your inner truth, so that you're not caught off guard and played for the fool. Because that's what they're essentially doing to not just America, but the entire world right now. It's called a mass hypnosis. Keep them under the spell, because if they don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain, they'll never know what we're really up to. So they've been poisoning our water, throwing fluoride in the water, claiming it's for our teeth health, which is actually forced medication, which is crimes against humanity because it's forced medication against your will. And it's more so than you should even be doing on a normal intake. So you got tons of chemicals just in your tap water. And you know how that history is about? If you haven't done your research, and you don't understand that the fluoride they put in the water system and in most of the toothpaste is essentially inorganic fluoride, meaning it's a byproduct of gypsum waste. It's a byproduct of industrial mining of gypsum. So what's going on down in Riverdale? I was looking up a little bit because I follow different organizations and groups here on Facebook. Is that gypsum, when wet, even though it hardens when it's dry, when it's wet, it crumbles. And currently the way that the system is that it is causing chemical waste of mercury, arsenic, all sorts of other chemicals. Let's just say this. Why is it okay that they can pump it into our Gulf? They can just dispose of it like that and not be held accountable. Why? Because they got lawyers in their pockets. Because they got tons of money to cover it up and to pay people off. Yet they need to be held accountable. And in my opinion, they need to be kicked out. Why is it okay for them to get away with what they do? If it was the average citizen or you and I, we ourselves would be fined and maybe even put into prison. But what they do is they dissolve their companies, they bankrupt themselves, and they just poof, go away, and they build up another one, and someone else comes in and continues the same corruption. Poisoning our Mother Earth and blaming us for it. Because then we have the whole green movement, which is a bunch of bullshit, just my opinion, telling us how climate change is the biggest problem. When the truth is, they're the ones manipulating the weather, genetically modifying our food and our crops, and by genetically modifying it, they're injecting those crops with heavy metals. Think Roundup, think soy, think corn, think canola oil. All of it done in a lab. And they wear hazmat suits when they spray them. Would you think that that's a good thing to consume the products that they are spraying to kill off the pests? Is that okay? I don't think so. Because, see, Mother Nature has a natural order, a natural cycle. There are always going to be pests. There's no such thing in nature that says monoculture right here. We have huge fields of corn, huge fields of soy that denature the earth. No, Mother Nature has various things grown in the same place so that it doesn't deplete the soil, so that everything works in harmony. This is what permaculture is all about. This is what it's all about when it comes to learning how to grow your own food, to farm. Farming is not meant to be this huge field of the same crop. When you do that, you steal and deplete nutrients from the soil. And when you do that, then it means the next crop is not going to get what it needs to properly nourish whatever's grown on that soil. So this is something that's been on and on and on in industrial America, industrial complexes. Everything across the board has been about how can we best effectively get rid of these products that need to chemically be disposed of and usually cost them money. So what they do is they sell it back to us at a cost. They use scientists in labs to figure out, well, how can we most effectively get rid of this without having to dispose of it properly and maybe even make a profit in the end. That's how fluoride ended up in your water and in your toothpaste. That's just one example. And in your dentist with the fluoride bites, causing fluorosis and all sorts of dental decay, and also bone osteoporosis. That's just fluoride. Everything else, if you're eating anything that has been made from the Roundup Ready group, and I want you to stop and think about if you eat meat, I don't care what you eat. I'm getting you to critically think about, oh shit, if I'm eating an animal that is eating GMO crops, because that's essentially what they do with a lot of that, is that they feed them to the animals that you yourself are buying. So the industrial meat market is all about supporting the big agra, the con agra. It's a big con, really. Everything has been subsidized. Why is it okay for them to use our tax dollars to subsidize all these chemicals, all this heavy metal, all this poison? Because when you eat the meat, because then you don't even know how tainted it is from what they eat, because you have to stop and think, whatever you eat, you got to follow the food trail. That's why I changed my diet the way I did, because I started looking at, first off, I'm allergic to wheat. And I didn't even stop to think about the glyphosate that they put down before on the fields of wheat to clear off all the weeds. Because back then, I didn't even know about that until probably 10 years ago. But essentially, I had to look at if the animal I'm eating is eating something I'm allergic to, it's getting passed on to me. Everything gets passed on. If you eat something that is poison or has eaten something that's been poisoned, it gets passed on to you. And look at this. This also supports Big Pharma, because then you end up in the doctor's office, unbeknownst to you, unknowingly eating, consuming all of these toxic foods, processed, poison. And because of that, the doctor has now a loyal customer who the doctor prescribes you medication, more toxic chemicals, more heavy metal laden products, because that whole industry comes from Rockefeller, and he was big oil. So petrol based and chemical GMOs. The whole thing is in bed with itself. The machine is so well oiled, no pun intended, because any type of oil that you consume has come from these GMOs. It is so heavily processed, so full of heavy metals, and it's rancid junk. You wonder where the disease is coming from. You wonder where the intestinal issues are coming from. And if your mind isn't right to begin with, all this does is make it even worse. This industry has been in the works for so long, at least 3 generations, and that's what it takes to really fuck up a humanity, is to hijack 3 generations worth of people. That back in the day, what you thought was your, healthy mac and cheese is now not even the same thing that you ate when you were a child. I'm looking at you, baby boomers. See, I hate to say this, but the baby boomers, they were the ones that were all about, we need to save the earth, come together, love one another, everybody come together, love one another right now. Woodstock. You started something, but you didn't continue it. You got lazy. You dropped the ball. And guess what? Who's here to clean it up and pick up the pieces and fix your shit? Yeah, that's us. That's this generation right now. All of us who are alive, we got to clean up after your shit. And if we don't do it, it's going to be our kids. Every choice you make impacts the generations after you. Our country, America the Great, has become the America, I want it my way, and I want it now. Have it your way, any way you like it. It's what has happened is this country, and yes, the rest of them are watching us because we became so influential that America, everybody wants it their way. All the slogans are there. Building up, creating narcissism. And yes, even in our children now, because now, what is everybody addicted to? Instant gratification, self-satisfaction, look at me, look at me. And yes, the baby boomers, I hate to say this, but if I recall, all y'all baby boomers were all about staying youthful, finding ways to fight getting older. It's all about the nip and tuck and, trying to find ways to stay youthful. Never stopping to think about the next generation after you. And I'm not attacking baby boomers. I want you to understand something. This is about recognizing some of the failures and the faults and the problems that have created where we're at today. We all have to take personal responsibility and be accountable for where we're at right now. We're either going to be a part of the problem or a part of the solution. And the truth of the matter is, you got to own your part. I know I've been a part of the problem in the past, especially when I didn't know what the hell was up. But once you know better, you have a moral obligation to do better. And it really sucks because that means going, oh, fuck, I really want that. But it doesn't align with my values. It doesn't align with my integrity. That if I buy that, I'm supporting the CCP. It's made in China. If I buy that, it's supporting Big Agra. And it's a GMO. So then I'm going to get sick and I'm going to be supporting Big Pharma again. Or, whatever it is, it's going to take to clean my happy ass out. Because, see, I had so much chronic pain in my physical body, not knowing that from a young age that, yeah, I was probably, I know I was, my sister was, we've talked about this. If you don't know how your body has been injured, think about it. What made man think it was so powerful and so all-knowing, deitizing, basically thinking, I'm God, I'm going to play God, because that's what man's doing, has been doing for a long time. Playing God in a science lab. Let's come up with all these ideas to fix. Actually, it was always about, how can I make a buck off this? When it really boils down to it, a lot of science isn't about health. It's about control. It's about making a buck. The root of all evil is the idolization of something other than God. You gotta take the time to trace yourself back and deeply reflect upon what it is you do and why you do it. Is it for the instant gratification because you just want it your way, you want it now? Narcissism at its finest, you never think about anybody else but yourself. Because true selfish, and I mean selfish in the sense of I don't give a fuck about anybody else, is not being responsible for the choices you make in the now and how they affect and impact the generations after you. Because you have a legacy that is going to be carried forth. And the question you have to sit with is, how do you want to be remembered? Do you want to be remembered for how you contributed, how you served humanity to evolve? Or do you want to be part of the destruction that caused the devolving of society, joining in on the cult of the personalities, the narcissism that will drive this fucking planet into the earth, into fucking hell? And yeah, I just have to cuss that out. Because it is angering, it is enraging that we have come to a point where people are actually defending things that are not even harmful. Or they're so on board with something that is extremely harmful. The idea that you would deify a man-made anything shows your loyalty and not your integrity. God created us in His perfect image. Whether you are religious or not, you don't have to be. Believing that there is a higher purpose, a higher power, somebody greater, something, and it's not outside of you because it's actually within you. God made us in His perfect image. What would ever make us think that we would know better? Why don't we tap into? Because you need to know you and feel what you feel. Pain, purpose, pain, pleasure. Because when you numb the pain, you numb the joy. And then if you don't feel anything, then you are an easy target. And you can be controlled and manipulated. That's why addiction is actually propagated. It's encouraged, even though you don't realize it. We talk about mental health, but are you really in touch with your own your mental ability, stability, or instability? Most people don't even have their own goals on a daily basis to know what it is that gets them out of bed. What brings you joy? I'm going to go back to this again. This whole, what makes you do what you do? I know it's so easy to get caught up in the, well, I just want to have fun. I just want to live my life. Dismissing the choices that you make that impact the rest of us and future generations. Again, every choice you make is either a part of the problem or a part of the solution. And you got to live with that. I have to live with what I choose, and you got to live with what you choose. And the key is this. Don't spiritually bypass that shit. Because when I first did my Reiki training, here's what I learned. My first documentary that I watched was The World According to Monsanto. Monsanto, right? One of the biggest Roundup pesticides. Control the seeds and you control the world. Vandana Shiva, a woman concerned about the true the future of our seeds, of our food. See, the thing is if they take over control of our seeds, how are we going to eat? Whoever controls the food controls the world, controls people. Because what is one of the biggest causes of death in the world? Poverty, hunger, starvation. It's not some menial little virus or little this or little that. Bacteria and this and that. You know what? That's hygiene. Overall, that's hygiene, all of it. And there is a cycle when the seasons change. You're going to get sick in the winter. Why? Because your immune system is low, because your vitamins D, C, and everything else goes low. If you're not accountable for your personal health, then you will be a wonderful client for Big Pharma. If you are not actively questioning why you do what you do, observing the thoughts that you have, tuning into your body's wisdom, and listening to the guidance system that God gave you, then you will get caught off guard, especially if you tune into mainstream media. If you listen to television where they cast actors, Hollywood casts spells, cast actors to program and channel television to you. If you catch yourself repeating what has been said on TV, it's gotten into you on an unconscious, even subconscious level to the point where you are parroting it. Don't ever say you're never brainwashed. Oh, I'm not affected. I hear people who go to sleep with the television on. You don't think that affects your sleep, your REM, your mind, your mental health? I sleep with binaural beats. I sleep with calibrated music. Anything that can elevate my vibration, my consciousness. I don't want to feed myself with junk that is going to take me out of my power. And that's what all of that does. If you were to calibrate the stuff that goes on the mainstream in social media, I guarantee you're going to find a low vibration. Why would you subject yourself to that? Why would you ingest that? Again, 5 senses. You take in your data from each one of your senses through your eyes, your nose, your lips, through taste, hearing, and touch. And they know exactly how to manipulate you. They've been doing tests for years. The scientists know exactly how to do it. CIA declassified all sorts of information if you want to go learn about the law of attraction, manifestation, holograph Earth. If you want to know about time travel and UFOs and aliens, it's all available if you want to do the research. It's not conspiracy. It's actually truth. The only reason that word was even brought up and created was to get the scent and you to not pay attention to the fact that they were involved in JFK's assassination. There's a whole list of all sorts of information, and you don't have to pay attention if you don't want to. But they're always listening. They're always watching. They're intently paying attention to everything you do. I know from personal experience, and I have witnessed with my own eyes the paperwork, the documentation, the directive that protects them and says it's okay to spy on Americans. It's okay because it's in the name of national intelligence and protection, safety, security. I don't know about anybody else, and I've worked in those environments. I don't feel any safer. In fact, I feel like I'm actually insulted by the fact that it is used against me, that my own life is treated as, how can I manipulate her? How can I get her to support the agenda? It's disgusting. And the biological weapons that are available, increases in technology and pandemics go hand in hand. Look at the Spanish flu. Look at history. Look at the astrology. History is the one thing that repeats itself. But most people don't even know their history. But if you did do your history and you did your research and you're aware of the history of the last time we had a civil war, you would also know that there was election fraud during that year. You would also know that in 1014, that was the beginning of the monarchy in England, and that the Danish learned that they didn't want another monarch. But because their Danish king had passed and did not leave an heir, they were left to go and figure it out on their own. But the kings of the lands learned, oh, they don't have a king. We need to send someone over there. Somebody needs to rule over them. So what they did is got smart and they designed the system for themselves. And they basically designated a person and said, listen, we need you to sit down with these kings and create treaties and deal with foreign relations. Because kings won't sit down with the common folks. Kings will only sit down with kings. And they said, you don't meddle in our affairs. You just do your duty and leave us alone. And over time, each king would try to exercise more and more power. And the people would have to learn from the history and try to reclaim their sovereignty and their power. Where do you think we are right now? We're repeating all of history right now. And if you don't think it's about your civil liberties and you think it's about something else, you are part of the problem. And I'm sorry, but that's the truth. Because freedom is the ability to make your own choices without bullying tactics, without these punishment systems, incentives and rewards. Here, you get this if you don't go along. Because they know how to entice you. They know how to seduce you. You think you chose to do such and such. How do you know they didn't seduce you? How do you know they didn't draw you in with their lavish, their love, their embrace? Because you wanted to be part of the crowd, didn't you? You wanted to be included in the group. Nobody likes to be excluded. Everybody needs to feel included in some way, shape, or form. See, this is the thing about human nature. When you are excluded, you feel like the outcast. That is not a good feeling. That's humiliation. And the whole thing with the projection, the attacking, the belittling, the beratement of other people is about the punishment for not going along. They did that during World War II. You should really look at the Holocaust. It didn't start with gas chambers. It started with the media. It started with the brainwashing, pitting the individuals against each other, making one group seem like the problem so that others would would point fingers. Why would you do that to your fellow human? That's an honest question for you to ask yourself. Why would you be so hateful to point a finger at someone else who is not even harming you, who is just trying to go about their daily life, get their needs met, have their ability to move freely? Nobody should have that infringed upon them. Nobody should have anything taken from them. How are they doing harm to you that you feel threatened? That's a humbling, come to Jesus moment. Sit with your shit. If you haven't been doing your shadow work, then you're the one out there pointing fingers at everybody else, playing the victim, waving your victimhood badge like it's honor. God forbid. The truth is that each one of us is an adult, and we need to take personable responsibility for our actions and choices. If you're obese, you're overweight, you're eating shit food, you're not taking responsibility for your own health and then acting like somebody else is responsible for it. No, that's you playing the role of the victim. That's not empowerment. That disempowers you. But you need to take back your power and stop just feeding yourself, ingesting all this bullshit. What you take in all forms is what nourishes you. And if you are spewing hate, you got to sit with why. Where is that originating? Is it about other people? Or is it about the hate you have for yourself? Because the majority of what I hear when I hear people coming at others with such disdain, attacking, all this hate spewing out of them, there's toxicity in that. It doesn't even matter what you're eating because you're already toxic. Whether it's from what you've eaten in the past or whatever your trauma is that you're unwilling to confront and face. Because it doesn't matter what you eat if you're already toxic. Hate creates toxicity in the body. It creates an acidic environment. It creates cancer. Cancer eats from the inside out. Ain't nobody outside of you responsible for that but you. If you got hate inside of you, that's on you. And I have compassion for you because for my life, I had a lot of my own personal hate. But the toxic you spew out, any toxicity that comes out of you is 1,000% worse on the inside. You can point fingers at others, but you got 3 loaded gun right back at you. And you need to be accountable and willing to confront that. Because if you're not willing to confront that, there ain't nobody outside of you responsible for it but you. You're the only one that when you meet your maker who has to actually deal with that shit. Doesn't matter what you put in your mouth if you aren't already good with your own heart and soul. It is a very humbling experience to actually face your own shit, your own shadow. But if you're unwilling to own your own shit, you'll be wearing it. Like the monkeys running around, which is essentially what we got right now. Throwing monkey shit at each other, right? Isn't that what monkeys do? We got a lot of monkeys running around, spewing each other's shit at each other. It's not even healthy shit. What it is unmet childhood needs that you're unwilling to confront and face. When you're willing to confront and face your own shit, ain't nobody can throw it at you, baby. When you own your shit, it won't own you. And stop throwing your shit at other people. That's projection. Nobody's responsible for your health, your wealth, or your livelihood but you. If you choose to go out in public but you're looking to attack, own that shit too. Because I know there are a lot of people out there that's what they do. They troll, whether on social media or out in public places. They look for that person to victimize and attack. They look for that person to point out, to condemn, instead of recognizing that shit's in them. That isn't the other person. You're looking to incite violence. You're looking for pain. You're creating the problem. You are the problem. And until you confront that in yourself, that's just going to continue to eat you from the inside out, baby. That ain't on anybody else but you. And I really, it saddens me because there are so many people running around with hate, attacking others, instead of realizing we don't got time for this anger. We don't have time for these fights. The time is now to act and to gather, to recognize we got more in common than we do apart. And that if you are constantly bitching, moaning, and groaning, complaining about what's wrong in your life, you ain't never going to find a solution. Because misery loves company, so you're just going to attract more misery. And that's the vibration you're carrying. What we need to be doing is coming together in groups, working on solutions, talking about solutions, working with each other. How can I help you? How can you help me? How can we serve the greater good of future generations? Because the instant gratification, self-satisfaction, the bitch, moan, and groan is the whole selfish, oh, look at me, I got problems. Hey, that ain't nothing. I got one bigger than yours. All that shit is toxic. We don't have time for it. I say, not today, Satan, not tomorrow, and not ever again. Because if we don't start acting now, then everything goes to hell in a handbasket. And our children are depending on us to do right by them instead of handing off more problems for them to clean up down the road. And a lot of this younger generation was raised on technology, was raised to think that it's okay to get lots of likes and make money for just dancing. It's narcissism. See, you cultivate narcissism in the youth so that it supports the narcissism of what's in power. And that's pretty fucked up shit because they know what they're doing. They knew from the start, the TikToks and the game playing and all that, that's been targeted towards our youth. Did you not hear people screaming, mothers especially, saying, I don't want my children seeing this. In the movies, I don't want my children witnessing all this violence. Back when I was a child, the violence was not immediately in movies. It was a lot further down the road. Now these days, it's like boom, 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 boom. Hitting all the sensory overload. So it numbs you out. Part of the addiction, part of the numbing out is as if you see it repeatedly enough, now you accept it as it's normal. None of this shit is normal, people. None of it's normal. It is so disgusting. It is so vile and such an insult to humanity and our hearts and our souls, especially as women, especially as nurturers, especially as creators, that they are trying to hijack women, obsolete us, because now they want to turn around and they want to do in vitro. They want to do all these lab-created, grown versions, clones, whatever. Transhumanism. Has anybody noticed that the Pentagon has finally admitted they're going to come out with this microchip and they're going to put them in the soldiers? I'm so grateful I'm no longer in the military, but I want you to consider this. Super soldier. No wonder they dropped all the standards, LGBTQ. You don't have to meet any of the standards going into the military now, because now we're going to inject you with a microchip under the guise that it's going to seek out this so-called CV thing, and then it's going to eliminate it. But yet, what I hear, super soldier, that's going to completely change the person that it's injected in. What do I know? I don't know anything. But just from experience, my intuition is pretty damn spot on. You don't have to take my word for it. I would rather you do your research. Because this has been something that's been in the works for a very long time, and it's always been about how can we hijack? How can we steal your soul without taking it? Because we can't legally take your soul. You had to voluntarily give up your soul. And here's the thing about patenting. Once you've been manipulated, once your body has been genetically altered and you're no longer a human, does that mean they own you? Does that make you government property? Does that mean you're patented and that you're no longer sovereign or autonomous? Had anybody been thinking like this? Because I know this for a fact. Things like when you look up in the patenting market, you can't legally patent something that is natural in nature. So what they have been doing, because it's about control and it's about the money in the end, and the money's actually the distraction. But again, if you're patentable, if you have a patent on you, what does that mean? What does that really mean now? Does it mean they can come and take you and do whatever they want now? I'm hearing that you would have to have every 6 months boosters. Oh, I thought it was only going to be once. Maybe it was twice. No, more than once. More than twice. Oh, give them an inch. They'll take a mile. But if you're that willing to go along because you think you're doing the right thing, because you trust in science, you trust in our government, Big Brother's always watching, Uncle Sam's got your back, I want you. The truth is in the lies and the lies are in the truth. But what are you willing to pay attention to and actually question? If we can't have these open dialogues and these conversations, we're screwed. Because that's how we evolve. Is having the hard, deep conversations that nobody else wants to have. If you're not willing to listen to another and hear their perspective and actually question and vice versa. If you're one of those, I have to be right all the time, doesn't matter what it is, you're all about being right, not being happy, not actually about engaging and having open dialogues. This is the problem we have right now. That's what narcissism is. It's I'm right. I get the last word. I'm right. Come at me. Right? Hey, that's narcissism. But when you're a selfless person and you're thinking about others and you truly are thinking about the future generations and how this impacts the world, you ask the hard questions. You're willing to do the research outside of the mainstream, outside of social media. You might even have to pull out some old books. See, I grew up in a house full of books, always books. In the library. I learned how to research. Dictionaries, go look it up. You don't even know the meaning of half the words that are used probably, and yet you blindly follow because you're willing to allow them to tell you versus to question. Our founding fathers wrote up the Constitution the way they did because they knew one thing for certain, that history always repeats itself. And when it boils down to it, there will always be someone who will want to put a thumb on you and keep you under their control. Will always try to get one over on you because they have something at risk. And see, absolute power corrupts absolutely. The more power someone has, the harder it is for them to relinquish it. And so if you give an inch, they'll want that mile and they'll take it because they can't. That's their addiction, is to the power and the power tripping. But it's actually not true power. That's force. Each and every one of us has power within us, and we're more powerful in numbers. We are the 99% people. If you don't think you're powerful, look around you. Every choice you make affects us. And so when I started this, I was saying that when I woke up this morning, last week my father and I went to an Indian restaurant. I simply asked what's in the food. I assumed that the only oils that they use were ghee or coconut oil. I was informed that they prepare their food in advance, that they use vegetable oil. And once again, I'm going to tell you, if you support it and you go to these establishments, you are part of the chain. These restaurants cutting corners, using cheap fillers, cheap products, hold them accountable. Set a standard for yourself, because if you're not setting a standard and questioning and asking for alternatives, then they'll never change. And that's why we're where we're at today. That the cheaper products are what they will gravitate towards. And I don't know about anybody else, but eating out isn't even cheap. So why am I paying for the shit oil in this food that much money? The woman explained to me that because they prepare their food all in the morning, all in advance of the evening, which is really sad because that means the food's not really that fresh. I understand how much time and effort comes into making and preparing Indian food. But again, it's about integrity. And if an establishment is using cheap ingredients, cheap products and fillers, then they're not up to my standard. And I can let them go, no problem. And you need to up your standards. I'm not talking about boundaries, because that creates a cage around you. Standards established, you need to hold them accountable to meeting those standards. We, the people, if we don't set a high standard, then they will basically bowl over us. We need to hold people accountable who are supposed to be working in our best interest. If they're not defending the Constitution, they get voted out. We find people who are willing to uphold that. If they are not, out they go. That's how it's supposed to work. But most people have unfortunately bought into this idea that they're the authorities, that they're authority figures. So now everybody's in fear of the authorities. They're not. Wake the fuck up. Why are you cowering to people who are supposed to be in your best interest, representing you, as they're pointing a finger telling you what to do? And they're projecting their shit on you, because all this race war divide stuff, look at who's in those positions telling you and talking about it. Nobody's ever pointing a finger at them and going, what the fuck are they talking about? They're the biggest racists in the whole group. They're a bunch of hypocrites. Truth. Real truth. The truth nobody wants to talk about. But again, all this woman said to me was that the chef was unwilling to work with me. He wouldn't make anything special for me. That they couldn't do anything with what they already had because it already had that vegetable oil in it. And I was unwilling to compromise, to put my body at risk, because I know when I have those cheap ass oils in my body, I end up with physical aches and pains. I know my body well enough that if I don't eat healthy, quality food, my body will tell me. I trust my body better than I do a doctor, because I've had to learn that I live with this body 24/7 and it's always talking to me. It communicates in its own language that I can understand. And if you are more trusting in a doctor then that's your first problem right there. That you're relying on that codependent relationship of the doctor telling you what's wrong with your body. No. Tap into your body's wisdom. Honey, all I can tell you is your body knows best. And when you feel pain, that's an indicator. It's trying to get your attention. It's saying, hey, you did something or exposed me to something that it was not in my best interest. Don't do it again. Because here's the problem is most people, they just keep doing it and thinking, oh, this is normal. It's normal not to go to the bathroom at least a few days. Back in the day, I had such bad stomach problems and chronic constipation that 3 days go by and I didn't go to the bathroom. It was normal for me. But that's not normal. You should be going several times a day. And if you're not getting rid of that waste, it's building up toxicity in you. Your body's reabsorbing all the toxic gases and all the food through your colon, which is one of the thinnest linings. You are reabsorbing all the toxins it's trying to expel. If your body can't push it out, it will reabsorb it. And this is just a little bit of all the information that I myself have had to learn through personal experience. I didn't have to learn this by doing a whole lot of research. I had to learn this through my own physical body. That when I went to the doctor and expressed, hey, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm sensing, and this is the research I did based on this. And the doctor proceeded to tell me, who's the doctor here? Talk about an ego, talk about narcissism. Doctors are taught what they're taught in an industry and a medical establishment that is backed by Big Pharma. That Rockefeller was the one that started the AMA, the American Medical Association. That the philanthropy was all about pushing the agenda to support the big, well-oiled machine. Even as a doctor, anybody out there, I would be sitting here going, at what point is anything I myself know to be real other than knowing parts of the body? Because doctors aren't even taught to treat you as a whole body. The doctors are taught to treat you as pieces and parts. That in itself should be a red flag to most people. You know, you got a gastrointestinal doctor, you got a gyno doctor, you got an endocrinologist, you got a doctor for thyroids, right? You got doctors for skin. I mean, think about it. Think outside the little boxes that we have been conditioned into. This octopus, this monster is so freaking big. It has gotten into all the crevices of your life. And when I go back to the fact that every time you go out to eat, you know, like I know tons of people out there buy only organic food. But when you go out to eat, you never question what's in your food. You just assume because it's a fancy restaurant that you're paying top dollar that they're using top quality in the kitchen. But if you don't ask the question, then you don't realize that they're using soy, they're using canola, they're using GMO products back there. They're using the whole industrial complex in the freaking kitchen. The chickens, for example, Purdue and Tyson lobbied so that your eggs have to be dipped in chlorine, which completely renders them like toxic. Because again, an egg, an embryo, absorbs all the chlorine, which is extremely toxic to us. That when you go into a swimming pool, the skin is the largest living, breathing organ, and you are absorbing chlorine. Why I won't go into a chlorinated pool? These are just some of the little things that just make me go, ugh. But because I've done so much research. Does anybody out there remember when John Travolta and his wife were raising big flags about the fire retardant chemicals that they're using in the carpets and the furniture? That they were raising flags about their children rolling around and touching all these things? That again, part of government regulation, just like your light bulbs. Nobody ever questioned it until it became a red flag because a Hollywood star all of a sudden brought it up to the attention. Hello, people. Cancer-causing, carcinogenic. Off-gassing. When you buy brand new products, do you ever notice the off-gassing smells? They're toxic. You think it's all like it's hygiene, it's been sanitized. Yeah, but it's toxic. They off-gassing. It's brain. It's so bad on your brain. The LED light bulbs. You know, my mother used to complain about the lights in the schools, and I totally agree, because I would have trouble with my eyes. How many of us grew up with eye troubles, ended up having to wear glasses in school because they were using those long tube light bulbs? Here's the thing, all that's toxic. The mercury in the temperature gauges, don't touch the mercury. When we were kids, you didn't know any better. Toxic. Lead in the paint, eating the paint as kids. Lead in our brains. Neurotoxins cause brain damage. Inhaling is actually the most toxic. So whether it's off-gassing, if you have mercury in your mouth, don't use, if you have any metal fillings in your mouth, don't use peroxide. It turns the mercury into gaseous and it gets into your brain. Thank you, Odette. The fluorescent lighting. All of that's toxic and it emits and you reabsorb it. You reabsorb it through your brain, your senses, again, through your skin. My mother said to me years ago, whatever you do, go buy iridescent light bulbs, the regular, normal light bulbs. At least you know they're not toxic because you don't have to dispose of them in a special, proper way. Yet meanwhile, right now, because government regulation said we should move to these other type of light bulbs, which, by the way, it should be a red flag when you have to dispose of them properly. Just like your cell phone batteries or your laptop batteries, all these freaking crazy toxic chemicals that are around us all the time, and they are emitting a frequency, a vibration, neurotoxins. They affect our heart and our brains. They especially affect your nervous system. And people don't question it. Again, all I can tell you is this monster and its tentacles go so deep, you don't even realize how deep until you go down the rabbit hole. But once you do, you can't unsee the scene. And the problem that we have right now is you need to see it. The only way we're going to get out of it is if you stop complying, stop buying into it, stop eating it. Don't even support, a lot of us want to support local businesses. Unless that local business is supporting the up and up, has high standards for the products that they are using in the foods or the products that they're selling, don't frequent them. If they're supporting China made, you need to say goodbye. Because the problem is we need to bring it back local. We need to bring it back to American made. That's the only way we're going to get out of this problem, is to go back to our roots. To remember how to grow, how to produce locally, not chemically. Remember, nature nurtures, man destroys. Man is trying to play God, has been for a very long time, and until we get this under control, we're doomed. So that is what I woke up with this morning, was realizing, holy crap, do people even realize how deep this goes? I really don't believe that they do. And the reason I say this is because a lot of people are on blinders. They really don't want to know. I understand why you don't want to know, but that doesn't make it better. And it ain't going to go away either. The more you ignore it, the stronger it gets. Because by ignorance, and ignorance is not bliss, by ignorance, you are complicit. Silence is also reinforcing it and supporting it. When you don't speak up, remember that old adage, when they came for this group, I didn't speak up. When they came for that group, I didn't speak up. And that group, I didn't speak up. But when they came for me, there was nobody, so nobody could speak up for me. That's why we're stronger in numbers. The more we come together, the more powerful the 99% are, you recognize that they have no power. And that the only power they have is the unimagined illusory idea that they do. That really what they've been doing is force all along. Taking and doing as they please and us not holding them accountable. See, there's the problem right there. We're held to a high standard, but yet we don't hold them to the same standard. We bicker and moan against our own fellow humans, but yet we don't hold those who are telling us to bicker and moan against each other accountable for their shit. I think that they're way overfunded, not just through our tax dollars. The money that they have amassed, those hoarders of wealth, disgusting wealth, need to be disarmed, disbanded, and removed. Voted out of those positions. They are not operating in our best interest. And if you think they are, that's why you're part of the problem. Because they are not upholding the Constitution. They are not upholding human liberties and freedoms. They're actually trying to strip us away of all of that so that they can have their way when they want it. And then that the American way will become the American gone. Dictatorship is really strong right now. There's a whole totalitarian movement. We call that communism. This isn't democracy. If it were, then I think that we would have had more outrage about what transpired this past year. Too many lies, people. When are you going to hold people accountable and stop bickering with each other? I'm ready. And so, I think an hour worth of me talking is pretty good. And if you have questions, let me know in the comments. I'm working on this Mind Body Women in Wellness program. If you're interested, let me know in the comments. Send me direct messages. I will be putting it together for 10 weeks. We will have a Facebook group where we can speak amongst ourselves. It will not be recorded. It is especially for the safety, privacy, and security of the individuals who will be involved. And we will be there to support one another in whatever you're going through in your life. All this stuff is meant to keep us out of our personal power, take us out of our peace. Don't let them hijack you. Don't let them entertain you. That's what that is. The more you're paying attention to what they're doing, you're not doing what you need to be doing. Anytime you're talking about the mainstream crisis actors and dog and pony shows, wagging the dog, telling you a vision, it's all baloney. There's nothing real about it because most likely it doesn't affect your life directly. All right, I have some kombucha to brew. I really need to make a smoothie. So, let's make a smoothie. I have some leftover from the other day. I have been on my superfood kick again, doing a little bit of cleanup. Because that's the thing, you need to know what your body needs to nourish. You should be hydrating a lot. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I have been wanting to say something for a very long time. I'm probably a little bit late in the game for saying what I needed to be saying. But see, back when I started Ridiculously Authentic, I was coming in with a whole lot of knowledge and awareness, and unfortunately the person that I was working with did not want to hear half of the stuff I just shared here now. And I want you to understand, I don't expect people to get all of it at once. It is extremely overwhelming. They have come at us, they have barraged us with so much to keep us distracted, to keep us suppressed, and just completely fat, diseased, and unhappy. The more that they infiltrate, the harder it is for us to get out from underneath the bullshit. They have basically put layers on top of layers. It's everything from the time we're born and how we're supposed to behave, the indoctrination through the education system, which is, it is what that is, because they teach you what they want you to be in society. And then you're being taught what it is that you're doing or supposed to be doing. Like there is no, here's your vision and dream. Let's nurture that. Let's let's like foster that in the children. No, they're not in that game. They're not in that business. They're in the business of ensuring that you are a loyal customer and servant, that you are a constant coming back for, whether it's the food, it's the doctor, it is the, like, everything. This is disgusting to me. So you got to learn where it is in your life that you're not aligned with your own integrity. They've done a really good job of hijacking everybody to the point where people don't even know, they don't even know themselves. We need to return to our roots, reclaim ourselves, calm ourselves, soar high, aim high. That was the Air Force, right? Because truly, and this is the truth, is women are going to save the world. And that's one of the reasons why they have targeted us over the years, is to keep us down, to act like they want to steal our children, but yet women don't have a say. Oh, no, no, no. Mama Bear comes hardcore at you. You don't come for my children without going through me. And that's what they're trying to do, is eliminate us. I need cherries. I'm out of cherries. Cherries! So we're going to make a quick smoothie. I've got my superfoods. Yeah, you know what? Everything can be healed from within. And the most important thing we do is get right with our mind, because everything originates in our mind. It's not even our body, except for that it's a result of the mind. Like I said earlier, you got a lot of hate in you, that starts here. And that, the body keeps score. And when we are hating on ourselves and hating on others, our body's registering that in every one of our cells. And so we're feeding cancer. Cancer is eating yourself from the inside out. That's just one thing. Then you've got stomach issues, gut issues, and that in itself is emotional. Like, I've had to really work on some emotional crap. I'm not perfect. I'm still finding my way. I don't need to be more genetically modified. The military did a good enough job of, experimenting on us. Anybody out there who's prior military like myself knows that the military is the first place they love to use experimental. All this super soldier bullshit, inject us with all sorts of chemicals. And then, meanwhile, we got to work our asses off for them to continue to deny us our benefits instead of just giving us our benefits. I've been fighting for my benefits for years. This is my all-time favorite. I can eat this stuff with a spoon. It's so yummy. The fact that veterans have to fight to get their benefits recognized is disgusting. It's an insult. But meanwhile, you've got all these people in Congress and Senate who are old cronies sitting and occupying a seat, taking handouts left and right, sitting in their fancy homes, collecting postal allowances and cashing in at the end of the year and who knows what else, because, they can default on their loans and not pay them back. But unlike you and me, if we do, we lose the properties. Another good one is the Master Blend with the botanical adaptogens. One of the best adaptogens, and I know, Davey, you know it, ashwagandha. It's really good for, especially women. Ashwagandha. Mood, hormones, balancing. It is disgusting. It really is, because when it really boils down to it, I've been trying to get Buddy recognized as a service dog. Yeah, you can go get a vest, but back when I first came back from Italy, and I was refused a flight because they wouldn't recognize Angel as a service dog, and I was like, that was against HIPAA. That's against HIPAA. That's a medical discrimination. It was another, like, that was 12 years ago. It was another insult to injury after I lost that job too. The disgusting shit that they do to people, because it's always about, again, this is part of the sociopathic behavior and the narcissism, is about denying people and humiliating them. Because if we humiliate you, then you're just going to feel like crap and not come back. I mean, I don't like to fly because all those airlines, they're just pieces of crap. The people that they hire, I use so many different things over the years that I've been using. I'm getting back into my Sheila G. It's so funny because now I'm starting to see people advertising for different cleansing. So I've talked about on my personal page about the shedding. And if you follow me on my Instagram, I've been putting a lot in my stories. But Sheila G, one person was pointing out, and this makes sense to me because I jokingly made reference to it, a whole radioactive, like, you know, shedding and like, they're time bombs walking around. Now, I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to be a friend with you, but please, I mean, pretty much anybody who's done it, gotten the job, seems to declare themselves like it's a badge of honor. It's virtue signaling. Sorry, but you want to do that, that's great. That's all. It's all on you. I got no judgment. But now I'm having to think in terms of my own personal safety. Sheila G is, I don't know, is Sheila G's in the Ayurvedic realm? I think so. So this is Gotu Kola, or Bacopa Monieri. That, you know me, I got all my herbs. But it's making it really interesting for the dating realm, for those of us who've been single for a while. Profile, no jabs. I like my men non-genetically modified. All right, this is one of my favorites too. Googaloo. This is something I recently saw somewhere, and I was like, oh, look, they're starting to talk about that one because it's in the same category as Sheila G. It's a resin, and it comes from the earth, you know. I don't know if you, yeah, sea moss. I need to get back on my sea moss. I used to do it a lot more. I need to buy some more. I don't know if I still have it in a bag, or I might have the gel in the refrigerator. I still had some. So it's interesting because there's a whole, you can do so many different detoxes in the world, but when it really boils down to it, if you can get into intuitive eating, and I don't mean like, ooh, I'm craving peanut butter, let me go eat a whole thing of peanut butter, because there's got to be this, what am I craving? Why am I reaching for things? Intuitive eating is, oh, am I in a mood that's reaching for the food, right? You've heard me talk about this. When we have a craving, we have to check in with ourselves that it's not because of an old trauma, an old memory that's coming up, because we're in a trauma response. Because when we are in a certain mood and we're reaching for the food, it will reinforce the mood. So we have to check ourselves and recognize whether or not it's a comfort food or it's an actual, nano silvers are great, activated charcoal, brown algae. I love sea vegetables. Again, I just showed you that most of what's in here are medicinal mushrooms. Let's see what else we want. Mesquite. Mesquite is very good too. This is an adaptogen as well. Some people like maca. Maca. I'm not a big fan of maca, although I do use it from time to time. It gives it kind of like that Whopper. You remember Whoppers? I used to love the malt from the Whoppers, and that's what it reminds me of. I love throwing dulse in my salads or different sea vegetables. I needed to put in some Kuna pruriens. So my sister's up in New York, and poor thing, the fox got to her chickens, because that's the cycle of life. That's nature, right? Is that nature does what it does. This is Mucuna pruriens. The fox needs to eat, so he's going to go after the chickens. And of course, my sister, she doesn't just get any type of chickens. She gets like the Warpingtons and all the fancy schmancies, like with these pretty little fancy, like, oh, they're beautiful. And then the eggs are all exotic, right? My little sister, though, she's the one we expected to be the veterinarian. She had the duck, quackers we called it. We had a goat. We had chickens when we were growing up. When my parents moved us to Maine, so we had like a mini farm. I mean, I was very blessed for that exposure, because that gave me that time to reconnect. That gave me the time to reconnect with nature, with my divine God, source, whatever you call it. Because to me, that was when I remembered being that much more, and then some. Yeah, adaptogens are all about the adrenal system. So like stress, if you're somebody who's overstressed or you live in chronic stress, adaptogens rebalance you out. That's what adaptogenics are. It's about adapting to your body to rebalance and reharmonize. Here's the Sheila G, okay? I'm very passionate about, because it really is going to be nice to have a whole bunch of women together to support each other. Ha 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 ha. Notice something's missing? I took the microwave out. I was getting so sick of it because it was radioactive anyway, because if you did plug it in, it would just keep zit, zit, zit. It was really messed up. So I just totally took it out. Like I said, send me a text message or direct message me. So, yeah, I took it out because I was just over it. And I've had 2 rats die this past week in the house, and I had to put them out in the dumpster. My life's been interesting the past week. And I've just had so many insights and drop-ins, and I just really feel compelled to really move forward and start being more active in solution. Like, I love doing these lives. I love sharing information. But I get concerned about this whole social media thing, and how much longer are we going to even have it, and what happens if, and then what if that, and what if those. It's really important that we start communing, getting together, like really connecting, not just like me talking. The women's group is going to be a whole bunch of us seeing each other. It's not going to be me just talking. And if you've been following me for a long time, I ain't just talking out my ass. Though sometimes it may feel like it for me. All right, now the only thing left is some ginger. And definitely invite anybody you think might be interested as well. You don't have to know, it'd be nice if you don't know anybody in the group. If you don't know anybody, but you know people who want to be involved, that's going to be key, because we women, it really boils down to us coming together to help one another and to empower each other. Like, really, support one another in whatever we're going through in the world. I'm surprised Buddy didn't show up. All right, the last bit is the ginger. Ginger's the most important. We're going to put a little bit of vanilla and some almond stevia, too. So yesterday was interesting because I went down to Sarasota, and I hadn't been out to a new raw vegan place in a long time, but it definitely inspired me that I really want to get back to how I used to be. I'm not going to promise that I can do all these kitchen videos like I used to do in the past. It's a lot of work to do a live video and all the recipe stuff by myself. And back in the day, I wasn't just doing that either. I was doing so much, I hit burnout. Unfortunately, my ex-partner was very controlling, and he wanted me to do everything. And in fact, he really wanted to control and micromanage my time. and at a certain point acted like I was giving too much of myself in the studio. And because of that, I was like, that's not changing, just because that was my saving grace. And that was the only time I felt like I could breathe. Living by the beach, I have been meeting more and more amazing people that have very much the same awareness that I do, that are like, oh my gosh, it was so refreshing to talk to you. I finally can talk to somebody and not feel like I have 2 heads or 5 heads coming out of me. I met a woman who moved over here from California recently, and she was sharing some of her experiences. And it's very refreshing, because there are a lot more of us who have like awareness than there are those who don't. So that's why I say there is a silent majority. I think that what is being highlighted in the media is essentially, just like always, what they want you to believe. You know, if you think that there is no hope because there's so many people who are buying into the, you know, hand signaling, virtue signaling, whatever you want to call it, then you lose hope. That's part of the mind control too. Thinking you don't have a tribe, when in reality, it is a big ass tribe, baby. So a little bit of almond extract. Now we've got, you know, my infamous vanilla. I love vanilla. I'm just a vanilla type person. Not that kind of vanilla. I'm definitely not vanilla. I didn't even know what that meant, okay? There's so many different, like, labels. Don't buy into labels, people. You know, at first, when I found my way to the raw vegan lifestyle, I was so amazed at how well I felt, and I was, you know, when you start changing your life and you start feeling better, you start thinking, oh my gosh, I can help others. Let people learn from your example. Be the leader. Inspired through inspired living. That's what I've been saying. Most of you have been watching me for a long time. When you inspire through inspired living, people come at you like, I want some of that. What are you doing? And I've had that for a long time. But when you're going, you need to do this, I got all the answers, you end up causing more people running than coming at you. And people are intimidated by that. They're intimidated by people who have like a wealth of knowledge coming at them, barraging them, because it's overwhelming, the amount of stuff that's happening in the world. I mean, if you just listen to everything I was talking about, you understand that it's not a one thing, it's everything. And there was so much more to it, and I didn't even go into those depths. All right, we'll try it and let's see how this is. So I want to say one more thing that I meant to say when I was speaking. The spiritual bypassing aspect. And this is the part that bothers me the most. And because I myself in the beginning had this mindset, when I first learned about a lot of things, you know, I went through my Reiki master training, and I'm like, oh, we can bless our food, right? Yes, you can bless your food, and you should always bless your food, because that brings in the gratitude and gives the vibration to the food, the thanks, and it ripples out. But in the world we live in today, I don't want you to think you can just spiritually bypass that shit away. Everything that I just expressed, if you are still frequenting restaurants that don't meet a certain standard and a quality of food, and that they're still using GMO products that are supporting China and all sorts of other big agra issues, that is still part of the problem. It takes humble accountability to recognize your part in that. And that every time you buy into it, you're still supporting it. I don't care how much you bless your food. You can bless your food till you're blue in the face. That is still an integrity issue. And that is still self-satisfaction and seeking gratification, instant gratification, and not actually acknowledging that you yourself are spiritually bypassing the issue. There's a lot of people in the spiritual community will try to say, oh, but I bless my food, so it's all much better. No, what you're not saying is that you just want it your way when you want it, and you're still not acknowledging that. And that in itself is like a whole come to Jesus, oh fuck my life type situation. Because even I've had to do that. It's like wanting to shop at Whole Foods because that's where you know you're going to buy certain products because you know where to buy them. But you're still supporting the industrial complex. You're still supporting big boxes. You're still supporting the big monster. You know, if you keep going along to get along, it's never going to change. We have to be the ones that make the change. Ooh. Yummy. Yummy, yummy, yummy. In my tummy. So, like, I stopped eating soy. I was even in Korea years ago. And I remember going to a market and buying soy. Oh my God. That shit tastes like crap. There's no taste to it. The only thing you're eating is the flavors. Once you own the fact that you just like it for the flavors, you can eat anything and just flavor it, right? We're supposed to be eating food for the nutrients, not the flavors. The flavors need to be satisfied, but it should come from natural, real food, not chemicals. Accountability. We all have a responsibility to future generations. And again, like I started out saying, I'm not here to judge you. You need to do your own deep inner reflection on this. This is like every single person needs to do it. I've had to do it. I'm going to continue doing it. You know, if you fall off the wagon, don't beat yourself up or don't berate yourself. But also, if you need an accountability partner too, be willing to do that. Do that for another person if they want that. But don't run around pointing fingers at other people either, because when it really boils down to it, each person has to decide for themselves. And we are not here to be each other's judge and jury, okay? You need to be compassionate and meet people where they're at. And the same where they come to you, be like strong in your knowing and your integrity, but don't cower because of their fears or their attacks or pointing fingers at you. Yeah, and the fake meat thing, that's a chemical shitstorm in itself. I just posted about the Impossible. I took all the Impossible meat back to at the time it was Costco that I bought, because I'm not supporting that. Every time I would eat those burgers, no matter how good they tasted, my spine, my back, my pain was so excruciating. Because it's made with canola oil. It's made with a bunch of processed GMOs. And who knows, is it really vegan? Is it really healthy? Is it grown in a lab? Do we really want to be consuming this genetic crap? I don't. We got to be doing better. And it really starts with us, for ourselves, and not, yeah, my IBS, that was the other thing, right? If we're not taking care of our own self first, we're not going to be able to take care of others. And we need to be in alignment with integrity, not loyal to disloyal institutions. We can make our own burgers. You can make them using beans, or if you don't do beans, you can use quinoa, sweet potatoes. You can make, you know, if you've seen, I still got the meal plan. I need to redo it actually. But the truth is there's so many amazing food options and choices. Yeah, I don't buy them anymore. Yeah, they're horrible for you. If it's processed in a plant, it's going to hurt you. If it is from a plant, then you should be eating it. Yeah. Yeah, if you follow the money trail, you know, philanthropists, what's wrong with this picture? So many people are putting so much stock, lock, stock, and barrel. They're basically handing over a loaded gun to a bunch of philanthropists who appear to be so, what's the word? so self-righteous. The philanthropists are the ones who own the companies that profit from their whole philanthropy. Follow the money trail. They're all like this. Their philanthropy is all a dog and pony show, smoke screen. They ain't doing anything in your best interest. They're doing it for themselves. The fact that a small group of people go behind closed doors and determine what they're going to do to alter the world and think on our behalf, to me, that's insulting. The idea that somebody should say that they want to block out the sun, that person needs to be held accountable. That person should not be allowed to act out on our behalf whatsoever. I'm totally against that. And I'm a computer person, hence the reason I'm against it. Because we're in Florida where they released all those GMO mosquitoes. I'm sure I've been bit by them. There are a ton of them over here. Yeah, what's good for the tongue isn't necessarily good for the environment. But you know what? That's that's another distraction, the green movement. The green movement is a bunch of bullshit, people. It's all about keeping you in fear so that they can push more agendas. They're the ones manipulating the weather, poisoning our earth, and then telling us we're the problem. That we need to stop eating meat or we need to start behaving a certain way. Whoever's pointing the fingers has 3 back at them. That's all I'm saying. Hey, you know how I am. Lana's look of approval. Anyway. I love each and every one of you. Reach out about the women in wellness. I'm going to be putting that together here. And hopefully we'll be starting it in May. About the second week of May. So, well, it's all about create the crisis. Because those who create the crisis, ironically, are the ones selling the solution. And it's already patented, so don't worry. They already got a solution before the crisis because they create them both. I love each and every one of you. Please, whatever you do, do it with kindness and compassion. Be kind on your mind because you know that's where everything's originating. And just check yourself. Are you in loyalty or are you in alignment of your own integrity? The two of them don't mix. And we all need to be more accountable and take responsibility for what is going on in the world. Get involved locally. Get informed. Learn your history and learn your rights. I love you very much. I'm here. Ain't going nowhere.